I'm Mike. Welcome back to the shop. So we're now at the point of doing inspection and cleaning of the components of the single rail gearbox. I'm going to show you how to do the inspection and how to clean some of the specific parts, and then preserve them before doing the reassembly. For parts that are rusty, one of the methods I like to use is to soak them overnight in white vinegar. And I find it helpful to actually put these parts inside of a Ziploc bag, fill them with vinegar, and then put the parts inside, and then put them in a bucket of water. The water causes the vinegar to stick close to the sides of the parts, or gets compressed into the parts, so there's nothing uncovered. So it's a cheap way to minimize the amount of vinegar that you got to use. So I'll take these out and show you what they look like. Okay, so this is the input shaft as it comes directly out of the white vinegar. I'm going to just wipe it off here a little bit. You can see that it gets cleaned up pretty well. Okay, so here's the output flange, and this is coming directly out of the vinegar, and it had rust all along the outside of the flange. So I'm just going to rub off the vinegar and some of the surface where the rust was removed. It also had a little bit of grease on it, so the grease it got spread around a little bit. So the rust is gone. I'll do a little bit of wire brushing to clean the rest of this up, but the purpose was to convert the rust and get rid of it. So that worked. Here's the gearbox cover. You can see where it was rusted all along the outside here. Again, I'll rub that off where the rust has been loosened, and you'll see it's a better looking surface. Good, the gasket's coming off as well. Okay, so that's much better than it was. The rust has been loosened up. Of course, there wasn't any rust on the inside of the cover because that's where the oil was hitting it, but I'll hit it again with a wire brush on a drill, and that'll clean up the remainder of that. This was the washer that went with the output flange. And of course, the nuts that get pretty rusted as you go along, they all sit on the outside. These look really nice. Would have taken forever to clean these off by hand. So they look pretty good. I won't bore you with cleaning all of the nuts off and the bolts off. It's basically the same thing over and over again. So, okay, so here are some of the parts that we're going to have to buy. I'm going to replace both of the bearings that go onto the front and back of the gearbox. These bearings are marked, for those that want to buy them independently, are marked as RMS8N, and these are SKF bearings. So I'll buy two of those, front and rear. I ended up damaging one of the spring clips that holds the bearing in place in the casing, so I bought one of those. These needle bearings, or needle rollers, I'm gonna buy 50 of these new. They come in a kit, and this goes on the inside of the lay shaft. And finally, I ended up damaging one of the C-clips, taking it out. So I'm buying another one of those. I'm gonna do the inspections now and determine if there's any other parts that need to be replaced. Okay, so the next part of the process is to do the visual inspection. And what I'm using are some cheaters, some 3X cheaters, so that I can get a good view of these, and I'm using a nice strong light. So what I'm doing is looking at each one of these gears, and I'm looking at each of the teeth, make sure that there aren't any missing ends for the teeth. Looking at the interior of the Syncro connection, make sure that there aren't any damaged teeth there as well. And I'm looking at any of the surfaces that are interfacing to see that there aren't any nicks or dings in here. So that's what I'm looking for. Once that's done, then we'll clean them up, and we'll determine if there's anything else that needs to be replaced. So I'm going to take a look at each one of these individually and determine if there's anything that's a problem. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see this, but just as I feared, I do have some nicks on these teeth. You can see it right here. It's pretty bad. That'll make it difficult for the gears to go in cleanly when shifting. So this particular piece needs to be replaced, and that's unfortunately not going to be cheap. Okay, this one looks good. All the teeth are nice and in good shape. The Syncro is in good shape. All the surfaces on the Syncro are nice and shiny. There are no chipped teeth for the Syncro, so that one's good. There's no issues with that particular gear. Here's the reverse gear. There is a little bit of chewing up on the teeth here, but none of the teeth are missing. And since this is only reverse and we don't have any performance under reverse, I'm not going to worry about this one. The bronze bushing on the inside of the see if I can get a good picture of that. Anyways, the bronze bushing on the inside looks really good. There's no wear inside the bushing, so that is not a problem. Let me see if I can get a better shot of that with the light behind it. Yeah, there you go. So you can see the bronze bushing is okay. So there's no adverse wear on the inside there. Okay, this gear also looks good. All of the teeth on the front are there. There's nothing chewed up, so that's good. This gear is in good shape as well, so there's no issues with that. The surface on the outside is good, so we can reuse this one as well. This gear is also in good shape. You can see the helicals are all there. There's no chipping on the outer edges of the helical. If you look at the interior bushing, you're also going to see that there's no adverse wear on the inside there or on the surface, which is a lubricating surface. Also, the Syncro is in good shape. There's no wear on the Syncro surface, and the Syncro teeth are also all in good shape. So this one can also be reused. So for the gearing, We've got one gear that we've got to replace. Take a look at the lay shaft. We'll look at each of the gears on the lay shaft as well. So on the end, this was a real expensive part of the gearbox. If I got to replace this, there's no sense in rebuilding the gearbox. Just part it out. That looks okay. The straight teeth, they're also in good shape. The next two set of helicals, all the teeth look good, no problem there. And the last, yep, those are also in good shape, so no problem there. So the lay shaft is good upon the initial inspection. Also nice surface here where the thrust washer rides on this end, and also on that end. You can see some of the needle bearings are still in there. We'll take those out before reassembly. Okay, the thrust washers for the lay gear. We're again looking for any signs of chipping or wear or wear through, and the thickness of the washer. So that plating, the brass plating, is actually in pretty good shape. So that one's good. Let's see. That one looks pretty good too. The tang here, which holds it in place, it's got a little bit of a crack on it, but right there. But that tang is, and that only goes surface deep on the brass. So that's okay. That one looks fine. So we can reuse these as well. A split washer, which is essentially a really husky type of a C-clip. That's fine. No issues with that one. I'm again looking for any chips or any bending, anything that doesn't look flat. So that's got a nice flat surface to it. So that's okay as well. That'll be able to be reused. I'm going to have to replace this. These are the cage needle bearings or cage roller bearings that go inside of the. I'm trying to lubricate it, but they're not turning. So this goes on the inside of the input shaft, and it rides between the input shaft and the intermediate shaft. The lubrication's not working, so I gotta replace this as well. Okay, this is the rear or the reverse shaft, the reverse gear shaft. So take a look at that, make sure that that's okay. This hole is where the retainer pin goes between the shaft and the gearbox. So that looks okay. It's not damaged. There's no excessive wears or steps in that surface, so I can't feel anything. So that shaft is okay. This is the spacer piece that goes around the shaft. Helps hold it in place. It's a loose fit. It's not meant to be a tight fit. So just taking a look to make sure that's not damaged or any issues with that, and that piece is okay too. So don't need to change. Don't need to replace that. So I'm looking at the Selector shaft spacers as well. These are made out of a nice brass, and just looking for some excessive wear. That's not wear there. That's actually a machine surface. Just to get it trued up. This is looks like a cast piece, so that was just cleaned up. So that's nothing to worry about. Same thing on the outside here. I'm looking at the contact surfaces to make sure that they're all in good in good shape. No chips, no missing pieces, so we're good. That one's good, and we'll look at this one as well. It's a little bit of wear here. We'll take a look at that. When I reassemble it, I'll pay attention to that to see if that's causing any hang-ups. If it does, I can replace it while we're while we're doing the assembly. Again, a machine surface, so not an issue there. That looks good. That looks good. Those surfaces are all fine, so that's reusable as well. Okay, on the intermediate shaft, I'm going to be just looking at the splines to make sure all the splines are okay. That's first. All the threads are all right. I'll actually use the nut. Make sure the nut goes on, so I'm not having to remanufacture anything here. Yep, nut goes on okay, so there's no issue there. That holds the that's the spline fitting for the output flange. That's the register surface for the bearing in the tail shaft, so that's okay. Got the register surface for the here for the speedometer gear. That looks okay, no issues there. Okay, look at the interior surfaces here. All the teeth are okay. I do have the ball to help hold the gearing in place. That's there. Everything looks okay. It just needs to be cleaned. There's a little bit of dirt on the inside here. Register surface for the bearings, the intermediate bearing and the okay. That's the intermediate bearing. This is what's going on the inside of the input shaft, and that's one of the pieces that needs to be replaced. So this is actually going here like this. That's not working. So that surface is okay. I was expecting to see a little bit more wear on that. No, that's okay. There's no ridge all the way along here, so my thumbnail's not catching on anything, so that's okay. Looks good. All the ends are there. Let me just make sure that shaft goes in okay to the input shaft. We'll just test fit it real quickly. Yep, so that fits without a problem, so the fit up will be okay. Just need a new set of roller bearings, so that's okay. And the lay shaft that goes in the bottom that holds the lay gear. Again, I'm looking for the only two places that touch are where the roller bearings are, or the needle bearings on the ends, and sliding this way when the no, I guess it doesn't slide. It just stays in one place. So I'm looking at the let's see it in the a little bit of a discoloration there. That's where the needle bearings are riding. So again, I'm using my thumbnail and I'm not feeling anything that suggests a register surface where the needles have. So we're good. That shaft is fine too. We can reuse that. And this is the selector shaft for the selectors that go on top. So just looking for any wear, any hang-ups. That's working fine. So that shaft is okay as well. No issues there. And then the selector spool. Again, looking for anything that could cause a hang-up or any distortion. No, that's okay too. Okay, so we've got one gear, needle rollers, don't need to replace those, and I think that's it. So a couple more things to purchase. All right, next part of the process is to clean up the case. I've already removed the gaskets from the outside and hand touched up or hand stoned the surface of the gearbox, both on both faces as well as on the top half. So that's not a problem. It's now just getting rid of the grease and any of the garbage on the inside. So I need to get some degreaser, take care of that, and clean that up. Do the same thing on the tail shaft housing. Get all the parts I need, and then begin reassembling the gearbox. Okay, a couple of other things. I forgot to show you how to just preserve this a little bit so it doesn't re-rust. After getting this out of the white vinegar, I wire brushed it just to prevent it from flash rusting again. All you do is take a little bit of good old-fashioned WD-40 and just put a thin coat on the on those surfaces. So that should take care of it. So that's all you got to do, and do it to any parts that you're concerned with getting a little bit of flash rust on. So put a little bit onto the input shaft as well that we soaked in the solution. So that'll be all right, no problem. Another thing that I'm going to have to get, and I should have gotten this anyways, all of these washers that go between the tail shaft and the gearbox casing itself have split washers or lock washers, whatever you want to call them, and they're brittle. So really only a one-time use. They ought to be replaced anyway, so I gotta buy 8 of those. I've got one bigger one also for the pin which holds the rear gear shaft in place, so that needs to be replaced as well. It's a little bit bigger than the others. I'm also going to get some Loctite, and you'll notice if you take a real close look at some of these that you've got, let me get the light on this, it'll be a little bit easier to see. You see a bit of a blue piece of tape or color on the screws. That's actually a Loctite that gets put on some of the bolts, and the intent of that is actually to eliminate leakage between the tail shaft housing and the rear of the gear case. We don't want oil leaking out of the gear, or the gearbox. So we'll get some Loctite also for the assembly process, and make sure that that's in there to reduce the amount of leakage that you get out of a British car. Imagine that.